Hi everyone and welcome to episode 25 of View from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week, we've got an FA Cup special with a look back at the action from the fifth round and a preview of the quarter-final draw as well as the EFL review. Chris has got this week's teaser and we've got a predictions update, and this week's special topic is around referees and the pressure that they're under in today's game. So let's get started.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of View from the Sideline podcast. It's Chris here and Rich is here as well.
Hi Chris, how you doing?
I'm alright, thanks. Rich, yourself?
Yeah, I'm not too bad.
Carry on, sorry.
The dream of the quadruple is over. Should we mention?
No, we're not going to mention anything.
Was it too early?
No, nothing about Chelsea is going to be mentioned throughout this podcast. I was going to say that this is our quarter of a century of podcasts, so number 25.
It is. Who would have thought it, eh? When
Yeah.
we started on episode number 1, who would have thought we'd be allowed to get this far?
Yeah. Anyway, so I've got this week's teaser for you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of based around the FA Cup, kind of based around a little bit on Chelsea as well. So Ashley Cole scored his first goal on English soil for more than 7 years on Friday. Yeah. Can you name the team he last scored against in the Premier League?
Oh
I have got. I will say this though. I'll give you a slight clue. Obviously, it could be quite difficult, consider it was back in 2012. The team he scored against are no longer in the Premier League. So that might give you a little bit of a,
Well, it's going to have to be a process of deduction.
Yeah. But it's good to see
more guesswork.
Couldn't believe it when he scored. It was a good header as well. Actually, I was quite impressed.
It was a great header.
But,
was that not his first ever FA Cup goal?
It was his first ever FA Cup goal. I think he holds the record for the most FA Cup wins as well, trophies. I think. I'm not 100% sure. I think that's right there. Anyway, we'll move on to some of these FA Cup games that happened over the weekend. And we'll start with the QPR Watford game. Now, it wasn't. It didn't have all the glitz and glamour maybe of some of the other ties, but it was actually quite a good game, quite end to end, and I think QPR actually defended quite well throughout the game, and I think QPR, probably looking back on it, might think that they probably should have got the win from this game. So they had plenty of chances.
Yeah, I think that on paper, I think it was probably not an easy game for Watford, but you would have expected them to win, especially based on the league form QPR have been in. I think they've been shipping goals left, right, and centre, and that sort of continued in their game last night where they lost 3-2. But I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, that Watford only had one shot on target, and that was the actual goal.
The goal.
So. 100% conversion rate, I guess.
It was a very, but the goal itself was quite, you have to say, slightly lucky. That obviously cleverly he's gone to take a shot and it was going down for a throw, really, I think, before Capoue got on the end of it. But
I thought a good win. I thought a good win for Watford. I actually fancy them this year. I think they're almost turning into a good cup side. I don't want to sort of disrespect their league form or anything, but they play good football and they proved that on their day in the Premier League that they can beat anybody. So I think getting to the stage that they've now got to in this year's competition, I think you've got to take them seriously. And obviously, we'll go through the draw later on, but they've got every chance of getting to the semi-final. So.
Draw, yeah. So the chance at the end for QPR, the ball goes across the face of the goal, and the QPR player literally manages to get a foot on it, but he just hits it wide. I thought he could have scored that, but I suppose in the moment, I suppose you don't really know. I don't think he was expecting to get near it, but never mind.
I think he was, but I mean, again, going back to their league form, and again last night because they conceded a 94th minute
I saw
goal, and then they missed the penalty in the last minute against Birmingham. They don't have much luck.
On Sky Sports News that their last 3 games they've either conceded or conceded late in their last 3 league games, which has cost them points. So
yeah. I mean,
but
you can see by Steve McLaren's sort of reaction that there's definitely some frustration there.
Okay, so we'll talk about the game that was on Friday night, the Brighton Derby game. I honestly thought that Derby might give Brighton a bit more of a game. I didn't feel that Derby were completely in this at all.
No,
I know they got a goal,
but
I just don't. I think Brighton played well, but I wouldn't say. I just expected a bit more from Derby, to be honest.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that's probably from their performance against Southampton. In I guess it was would have been the third round.
Yeah.
I think that Derby have got the players to give
in
anyone the Championship and even in sort of the bottom half of the Premier League a decent game. I'm just not. I don't think they performed. I mean, I find Derby quite inconsistent, and I kind of put Brighton in the same bracket as Watford. In the regards of this sort of, it's presenting itself to be a really good opportunity for Brighton to really go deep in this competition. And I guess when you say that sort of the cup can be a distraction in a bad sense, I think the way Brighton's form's been in the Premier League recently, the cup's probably a good distraction for them.
Yeah.
And I think overall it's a good win. I mean, Derby are a decent side, so
yeah, they are. Just like I said,
to beat them, it's a good game.
That they turned out. That was all. Anyway, the Wimbledon Millwall game, early goal for Millwall, which actually turned out to be the only goal, so it ended up being the winner. And it was the same guy that scored the winner against Everton as well. Wimbledon did cause a few problems, but just they just couldn't find the goal really in the end. It's just one of those. Again, a bit like QPR, I think they might be a bit frustrated that they didn't convert some of the chances that they did have. But all credit to Millwall. They went one up and they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, but I think from Wimbledon perspective, where they are in the league, I mean, we'll touch on that a bit later in the EFL review. I mean, to get as far as they have done in the cup, it's a huge achievement, and especially beating West Ham the way they did. I don't know whether that brought a bit of pressure on them coming into this game. Yeah. I mean, if you're sort of comparing Millwall and West Ham, you would expect you've got a better chance of beating Millwall, but like you say, I mean, an early goal, you almost feel that would have opened the game up a bit, and it would have been a bit more attacking. But I think Millwall defended pretty well against Everton in the last round, I think. So we know that they can defend. So I guess it's not a huge surprise that they sort of kept a clean sheet and kept the 1-goal lead for as long as they did. It's not a glamour tie, is it really, with the greatest of respect to both sides? And
credit to Millwall.
Yeah, absolutely. And whoever would have won that Millwall were amazing against Everton. They played really well. And Wimbledon, by the same token, were amazing against West Ham. So maybe we expected a little bit more from it. But a close game settled by the 1 goal, and Millwall go on. And I mean, Wimbledon looked pretty doomed from a league perspective, but maybe they can fully focus on that now. There is no distraction, so maybe that's something that they can focus on now and maybe get out of trouble.
So the Newport Man City game, I think a lot. City.
I think we were all edging towards a huge upset here.
At half time, because Newport had a good couple chances in the first half. There was a header that was well saved by Edison, but then second half, completely different. Man City come out and do what they do best. They just picked Newport apart. Every goal pretty much was well worked from the midfield going into the attack. Newport got the goal, which I expect they'll be quite happy about, and it's something for the fans, and it's scoring against Man City, something you can put on your CV. But
but I mean,
half
I
time,
think
you were thinking that
4-1 flatters. Yeah, but I think 4-1 almost flatters that game because there were so many goals late on.
Yeah.
I think that if you look at it from now, I've heard so much about the game and about sort of Newport's tactics and how the sort of pitch was roughed up in certain areas, and that Newport's tactic was not to allow Man City to get the ball out wide, and because that was their tactic, the sort of the sidelines had been sort of roughed up a bit and things like that, so it wasn't as easy to play the sort of football you would associate with Man City. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because if you're Newport and you're playing Man City, you almost need every advantage you can possibly gain.
Do anything, won't you, just to
absolutely, anything that's within the laws of the game. But I don't think we can. I find that I thought the first half performance from Newport was nothing short of sort of unbelievable. When you think of the gulf between these two sides, and within the football pyramid, I think there's 82 or 83 places between them, which I don't know whether that sounds a lot or not. I mean, to me, it doesn't sound a huge amount.
No.
It's not. But when you look at them against club against club, they are a million miles apart. When you think that, I think Aguero, I think I read somewhere that Aguero has to like 2 days or 2 or 3 days wages for Aguero is something ridiculous, like the annual wage bill of Newport. It's something ridiculous like that, and that is the gulf between the two teams. And let's not sort of ignore the fact that Newport held them for as long as they did, and if it wasn't for a late flurry, the scoreline would have been a lot closer than it actually was. And again, the teams that they've beaten, so they knocked out Leicester, they knocked out Millwall, and it's a great cup run for Newport, and I think they deserve all the plaudits they get. But realistically, I don't think anyone expected them to beat City, and it sort of turned out that way.
Yeah. So after the game, I saw on the BBC website that Guardiola invited the Newport players into the changing rooms and said, "Just have what you want," or something, wasn't it? He's like, "Just take what you need." And
I'll have De Bruyne, I'll have Aguero.
I was about to say that if the manager walked in, they'd be like, "Yeah, I'll have you free for next week." But that was very kind of Guardiola to do that. Obviously,
it is, but it just shows what sort of guy he is, and I think it shows that they recognise that the effort and the sort of commitment that Newport had put in, and it wasn't an easy game. And I think that I've heard a lot over the weekend about, and I don't know if it's just sort of bitterness from fans that their teams have gone out, but the sort of feeling is that Man City can put not just only like a reserve side out, but they can almost put a third team out that will get them to this stage of the competition and maybe even win it. But that's not their fault. They've probably got the best squad, maybe even in world football. So the fact that you can bring players like Mahrez and Foden into the side for a game like that, and they're quality players. I mean, they're international players. It's City are building an awesome squad. That's sort of their fault, and I don't think that they're probably the one team that you could almost say that they're not sort of disrespecting the competition, because even their reserve side is a blooming good side. Do you know what I mean? I think they'll win it. I think they'll win it, to be honest. But we'll see. We'll see.
Look out for some Man City shirts on eBay being posted from Newport. Anyway,
probably.
Bristol City Wolves. It was an okay game. I wouldn't say Wolves went all out.
It's a close game to call, especially with Bristol City's form. I think they're the most informed team in European football. I think they've like won nine on before that defeat.
It was an okay game. I wouldn't say it's gonna.
They're in good form,
like the FA Cup up, but what? Again, Wolves did what they needed to do, and that was that was it really.
Yeah, I think it was a bit more professional from Wolves in respect of, I know no disrespect to Shrewsbury, but they sort of they were 2-0 down to them in the previous round and got it back to 2-2, and then they were behind in the replay as well. I think it's almost as if Wolves got that little bit of a wake-up call that they needed to say that these games aren't a walkover.
Again,
like I say,
another good chance for another team outside the top 6 in the Premier League to go on and give it a good go.
Yeah, but Bristol City are top 6 in the Championship, so they're no sort of easy game.
We're not bothered about Bristol City, mate.
Especially, what is this issue you've got with Bristol? Is it a Yeovil thing?
Local, isn't
it? You should support your local team, all of them.
They're not that local. they're like one of our main rivals, and they're like an hour away, right?
And sort of two divisions away, possibly 3 divisions.
They haven't always been like that, mate. Trust me.
Anyway. I mean they're a top. They're in the playoff place in the Championship, so I don't think that's any sort of mean feat to Wolves to go there, keep a clean sheet, get the win, and go through to the next round. So I think it's a good performance.
Okay, so the Palace game next, Doncaster Palace. Don't think anyone really. It's not a surprise that Crystal Palace went through in this one. A nice finish from Schlupp in after like 6-7 minutes. I thought that was a good goal. But the penalties for did you see the 2 handballs?
I think we're talking about referees later on.
Very strange. So I would say very deliberate handballs in the box. So I think Doncaster probably got away with a couple there.
But they didn't.
But
they didn't have VAR, did they?
No, because that's strange, isn't it? There's some.
But this is the only thing about the FA Cup. I think it's all or nothing, and I know that some grounds aren't capable of hosting VAR, if you like, but I'm not sure why you would have it. I mean, I assume it was on Chelsea United, so I don't know why you would have it.
Trust me.
No, but I don't know why you would have it there, but you wouldn't have it at another ground in the same competition at the same stage of the competition. Maybe that's something to be looked at, but I honestly thought that could be a banana skin for Palace. I thought Doncaster aren't a bad side.
It's just the way they started. Crystal Palace just was so much stronger getting started, and it was just uphill battle for Doncaster.
Do we put Palace in the same sort of bracket as your Watford, to your Brightons and your Wolves?
Hodgson seems pretty keen that they're going to get to Wembley.
I mean, they did a few years ago, didn't they? Palace with Pardew, and you never know.
The dance when they went 1 up. And he did the dance. Oh, I bet he regrets that.
Don't dance till the final whistle. Would my advice.
Anyway,
because he will not live that down.
Swansea Brentford game, which is probably, I would say, game of the round at the score. I think obviously Brentford actually take the lead, and then Swansea a completely different side second half, and then 4-1 in the end.
I think sort of really. if you look at league positions, I think that's probably the tie that was closest. Obviously, because they're both in the same division, they're not that far away in the table. I think that was probably the closest game to call. I guess. I mean, I find Swansea quite. Well, I don't know. I guess as a Swansea fan, you might be a bit frustrated. I still think they're a good footballing side, and when they've gone down, I mean, I'm not sure whether fans would have expected them to challenge, but getting to this stage of the FA Cup and a win like that in the 5th round has got to do the club the world of good, and it's got to give them a lot of confidence. But they seem a bit inconsistent for me in the league. But they're on a good cup run. It's a decent win. Brentford aren't a bad side at all.
No.
So yeah, a good win all round. Really.
I'll just see what's up next.
Chelsea, Manchester United.
Right. Can I just say something first? Right, straight off the bat. This next thing I'm about to say is not in any way, shape, or form would have made any difference to the game, right? But there was a big shirt pull in the first half where David Luiz's shirt actually gets ripped off, and VAR was there, and they said it wasn't a foul. He's ripped the shirt off a player. How is that not had enough force to? It's just, I don't know. You know, it just
sounds like sour grapes to me.
I just said that it wasn't.
I know where you're coming from, but I think that this is that particular sort of instance. I mean, I'm not going to comment on the fabric of which Chelsea shirts are made from, because that's not where my expertise lies at all. But there's so much shoving and there's so much sort of shirt pulling that goes in the box that I think there has to be some sort of line. I mean, at the World Cup, you seem to be getting penalties for everything.
Yeah, I know.
So I think you've got to have faith in the fact that if VAR's not picking it up, or they don't think it's worth looking at or going back to, or the referee hasn't had anything.
So this leads me to my second
to say
point
about it.
So the next bit is about the referee, right? Okay. So first half, he books Matic. Probably wasn't a yellow card, if I'm honest. Needless to say, he booked him. It was a yellow card, right? Then Matic goes in late on Kante, and the referee doesn't even book him, even though you would probably say that was more of a yellow card than what the first one was. And he didn't send him off.
Yeah.
It's just, again,
But, yeah.
Right, we'll go on to referees anyway later. Anyway.
Yeah,
the game
I
itself.
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I think that before the game, for me personally, when I saw the teams, I thought Chelsea had it. I thought Chelsea would win the game. I thought they put out a pretty strong side, and with United missing Martial and Lingard, sort of two of their most informed players, I thought that Chelsea would win it. But I thought that Man United had a really good game plan. It was almost as if, because I found that Chelsea had an awful lot of possession, but didn't have an awful lot of end product.
It's just the point. They're passing it around nicely in midfield, but as soon as it went forward, there was just nothing there.
But it's almost as if Man United adopted the sort of tactic that Mourinho would have done when he was in charge, where he got accused of parking the bus. And it was almost as if United were trying to play like that, but they actually did it successfully.
Yeah.
I thought that Higuain, apart from one sort of half chance where he had his first touch, when the ball got played over the top, his first touch was brilliant, but then his second touch was terrible. And he got pushed wide, and then he sort of just did a sort of nothing loopy sort of cross-come shot. And I thought he was quiet. I thought Hazard was as normal. He's the spark that is going to ignite Chelsea, but it just wasn't working for him. And I think the one thing let you down in that game and has let you down this season is your defence.
Exactly.
The first goal, Rashford's cross was unbelievable. I mean, if you sort of put a penny on the floor, he would have hit that penny. That was such an amazing cross. And Herrera just had to get anything on it, and it was a great goal. And the second goal was kind of the same for me. I mean, it was a good cross in, and sort of Pogba gets there. But I just think the defence is, if you're looking for a defender, if you're looking for a defender that's going to do some keepy uppies, then a back heel to get the ball out of play, or out of danger, then David Luiz is your man. If you want a defender to actually defend, he's not the player you want.
This is
in my opinion.
This is the problem. So we don't have between those two centre backs. I think Rudiger is probably better of the two at defending, but we don't have a leader between those two. Like when last season, when we were playing 5 at the back, you had Azpilicueta playing as a central defender in the 3, and he was that leader that they needed. But there just doesn't seem to be any sort of organisation. He's clearly not going to change anything. I think he's even said that it's not, not necessarily the players, but it's just the way that he wants the players to play that's not working. He's even said that in a press conference today. He said that when a journalist asked him if he would swap the players for tomorrow's game, he said it's not generally the players that need to be swapped. It's just they need to learn the way that he wants to play, and it's just not working. It's how many months into the season now? Are we like 8 months into, like 7-8 months into the season, and it's not. They're clearly, the players are not getting the style that he wants to play, and the ridiculous thing about it is he's got Kante. Kante is playing out of position. There's no doubt about it. He needs just to try it just once with Kante playing in front of that back 4.
Yeah,
I
don't disagree with you. I think he's stubborn in the regards of he's got his style of play and that's what he will stick by. I think we need to, personally, I mean, I'm not a Chelsea fan, but I think we need to move on from the Kante bit because it's been going on for so long. If he was going to move him, he would have moved him by now.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
If you've gone to Arsenal and lost, you've gone to Bournemouth and lost, you've gone to City and got absolutely trounced, you're out of the FA Cup, and he hasn't moved him. In amongst all that, the one performance that we've got where Chelsea put in a performance is against Huddersfield, but no one after that game was saying he should have moved Kante for that game, or Kante was really good out wide. There was sort of no reference to it. Where whenever Chelsea, I don't think it's any secret that we probably think, the majority of football fans probably think, that he's playing him out of position. But that's been the talk for such a long time now that if he was going to move him, I think he would have done. He's obviously put a lot of faith in Jorginho, that he's going to do a job for him. He's not. I don't think he's a holding midfielder.
I don't know where he's got this idea that he is. I honestly don't. He's good at passing. There's no doubt about it. But passing from that position is no good to us. We need him more. If he can pass that well, then he should be playing more like Fabregas was and playing more forward. I just don't understand.
I mean, you only have to watch Chelsea to see how ineffective Kante is playing where he's playing. But I think that Sarri is, in my opinion, he's the sort of guy that will go down with his ship. He will go down with his beliefs that this is the way he wants to play football, and he will fall on his sword.
2 questions for you.
Yeah.
One, do you think he's out of his depth with the club?
No.
Do you think he's taken this job on too soon, rather than not go into? I know he managed Napoli and he did really well there, but do you think he come too soon?
No, not necessarily. I think that he was managing one of the top 3 or 4 sides in Italy. Now, admittedly, no one's probably going to finish above Juventus, because they've got such a monopoly on that division. But he was successful. He didn't win a trophy, but he was successful while he was there.
Second question.
I think that I personally think that he's in a transitional phase at Chelsea where I don't think he has the players that he wants, and this whole everyone needs 2 or 3 windows. I just think that what his downfall at the moment is that he won't admit, or he won't acknowledge the fact that maybe the way they're playing needs to change.
Are you surprised that he's still there?
No, not at all. But who else would they get?
I know, that's what I mean.
Realistically, who else would they get? I mean, there's talk of Mourinho going back, but if you're going to bring Mourinho back,
that's
then
like
you're sort of clutching at straws, in my opinion.
That's like on Monopoly ball where it says go back 3 spaces. There's no point. We've done that already. In his press conference today, he said that he hasn't spoken to any of the board members or any owners since the Man United defeat, which surprises me a little bit because I thought, maybe he might have been called in just to say,
It's only been a couple of days, but I'll be honest with you, and I know that you and I have spoke about this before, and there may be a bit of tongue-in-cheek about it. I honestly think that there's too much expectation with Chelsea at the moment. If fans really think that they're going to win the league and they're going to win the cups and all this, I don't want to be controversial. I don't think they will. I do not think they will. They're gone of the days where they've pumped millions and millions and millions and bought all the best players in the world, had your Terrys, had your Lampards, and they've had that core that's taken them to so many titles.
Drogba.
I think those days have gone. Yeah, but I think those days have gone, and
for now
they are never. In my view, they're never going to get anywhere if they just keep chopping and changing their managers.
This is the problem.
I'll throw a Spurs reference in. Although Pochettino hasn't won anything, nobody can question that Spurs are going in the right direction. And the reason they're going in the right direction is because they've got some stability. They will win a trophy at some point. They will continue to get Champions League qualifications. If Chelsea finish outside the top 4 this season, and that's their second year out of the Champions League, that's not right for a club like Chelsea. But it may be the reality.
We'll move on. Anyway, so we'll quickly go over the draw.
You could be Everton. It could be a lot worse.
Yeah. Watford, Palace, Swansea, Man City, Wolves, Man United, and Millwall, Brighton. Obviously, the two Manchester clubs missed each other, so yeah. I think the tie I'm most looking forward to is probably the Millwall Brighton one. I think I'm quite looking forward to that one. It's kind of a local sort of.
I think Watford Palace is a good tie, and I think that Wolves Man United is a good tie as well. I think that if let's assume that both Manchester clubs get through, and they were to play each other in the semi-final, there's a real chance for one of the other teams.
Definitely.
Obviously one of the other teams will get to the final, but you could have. I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, I'd pick Watford and Brighton to win the other 2 games. So you could have a Watford or a Brighton in the FA Cup final, which would you just hope it's a spectacle. When you get a club that's probably, or a team that's an overwhelming favourite. The finals have normally been contested over the last 3, 4, or maybe 5 years by 2 of the top 6, but. There's a real chance for, and I'm not counting out Wolves or Swansea. Wolves knocked Liverpool out, so
they've got a good chance.
There's nothing to say that they can't knock United out. Yeah, absolutely.
Good draw. Anyway, that was the FA Cup stuff. So now we're going to move on to the EFL, and Rich has got a couple of games, I believe, in the Championship.
Yep. So due to the FA Cup games, there was 7 games in the Championship over the weekend. And no surprise, but there's another change at the top with Norwich going back into first place. They won 4-0 away at Bolton, and they are now 2 points clear of Sheffield United, who are now in second, and they beat Reading 4-0 also at the weekend. Leeds in third didn't play, but they do have a game in hand on the top 2, so if Leeds were to win that, it will all change again. West Brom and Middlesbrough, they were the only 2 other teams in the top 6 to play. They both won. West Brom won 2-0 away at Villa in the Midlands derby, and Middlesbrough beat Blackburn 1-0 away on Sunday, with Blackburn going down to 10 men. Just on that as well, so West Brom played QPR last night and they won that 3-2 with a late winner. So West Brom got another 3 points, so they're pretty safe in the playoff places. At the other end, all of the bottom 4 teams were in action. Bottom side Ipswich, they got a point in a 1-1 draw with Stoke. They got a late equaliser, but it does still leave them 9 points from safety. Bolton are in 23rd, and as mentioned, they lost 4-0 to leaders Norwich, and Rotherham make up the final relegation place. They got a 2-2 draw with Sheffield Wednesday in a bit of a Yorkshire derby. It does move them level on points with Reading in 21st, but Rotherham were 1-0 down, then they went 2-1 up, but then Sheffield Wednesday got a last-minute equaliser. So a lot of last-minute goals in the Championship lately, so affecting both games at the top and the bottom. The only other game in the division at the weekend saw Preston and Nottingham Forest play out a goalless draw, which, to be honest, didn't really help either side. They're sort of hovering just below the playoff places, so a point each didn't really do much for either side. Going into League Two, so probably the most informed team around at the moment. So Luton, they've maintained their 6-point lead at the top. They got their sixth
win. Aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. 6th win in a row. They won 2-0 away at Fleetwood. Then now 11 points clear in the race for automatic promotion. So it's looking good for them to go up to the Championship. Whether they go up as champions or in second place remains to be seen. But Barnsley, they do keep pace. They're in second. They got their 4th win in the last 5 with a 2-1 win at home to Wickham. Portsmouth, Sunderland and Charlton, they all drew over the weekend, but they do remain in the playoff places. Portsmouth are now without a win in their last 5, and they have drawn their last 3. They're now 5 points off automatic promotion. When you think like earlier in the season, we were talking about Pompey running away with that league. Now they're 5 points off. They were 3-0 up away at Southend, but went on to draw 3-3, which is crazy. Sunderland, they also drew. They've drawn 5 of their last 6 games, although they did win last night. I think they played Gillingham last night and they won 4-2. But before that, it was 5 of their last 6 games they've drawn. And Charlton remain in 4th, which with a draw, and that was their 3rd draw in their last 5 as well. So a lot of draws with those 3. Doncaster make up the last playoff place, but they didn't play. As mentioned, they played Palace in the Cup. At the bottom, Wimbledon are still rooted to the bottom and 7 points from safety, but they didn't play at the weekend either because of the FA Cup. The 3 other teams in the relegation zone all played, with Bradford in 23rd and Shrewsbury in 22nd, both picking up a point in draws against Plymouth and Burton respectively. Oxford make up the final relegation place. They lost 1-0 at home to Peterborough, but it is really tight at the bottom of League One. So there's only 5 points separating Plymouth in 15th and Bradford in 23rd. So the relegation places are still far from being sorted in League One. So League Two, Chris.
Okay, so League Two saw almost a full fixture. Obviously, Newport against Swindon was postponed because obviously Newport played in the Cup. But top place Lincoln were held to a 2-2 draw with Stevenage. Lincoln were 2 up in that one, but conceded twice in the last 3 minutes. One of the goals coming in the 94th minute. So let that slip. Bury up to second now after they beat Exeter 1-0 away. And Mansfield moved down to third as they lost to bottom place Notts County 1-0. After a bad run of form recently, MK Dons are back to winning ways. They defeated Carlisle by 3-2. Forest Green are up to 5th after a convincing 3-0 win over Yeovil. Talk about that one a bit more in a minute. Colchester 6th. They drew with 2nd from bottom Macclesfield, and Carlisle make the other playoff place in 7th. As already discussed, Notts County and Macclesfield both didn't lose this weekend. Yeovil did. They got hammered 3-0. Only a point off relegation now, Rich. So yeah,
dropping like a heavystone.
Yeah, so obviously the fans are growing a bit more impatient now with the manager, but just announced in the last
I was
24 hours, there is a takeover happening at Yeovil. So an American businessman and his associates are going to hold a 92% stake within the club. He's got a bit of a background, this guy, of sports, especially in America. He owns a baseball team. So we might see a few changes. The manager's come out and said that he's got full backing of the new owners, which I don't think has gone down well, should we say. But yeah, could be a bit of money being pumped into the club. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But just needs approval, I believe, from the EFL. But apparently everything's going well. So I think it's March time, sometime in March, that the takeover will be complete.
Well, let's hope you're still in the in the football league. Come
well,
then.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully this.
I think they will.
Give a bit of a lift.
I've grown to having a bit of an affinity with Yeovil, Chris. I'm not
6 defeats in a row now.
But yeah, I just kind of think it's all well and good, sort of. I mean, for people to come in and buy that sort of stake in the club, they must see some potential there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're expecting them to pump millions in and sort of to get pretty much a whole new squad, I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen.
No, obviously not.
I guess it would be good to go onto a new era for the club and still be
football league.
A football league side. You don't want to get relegated and then sort of never be heard of again.
But yeah. Anyway, that is the EFL review.
Let's be positive.
We'll have to be positive. It's hard at the moment, mate. We've got Chelsea and Yeovil both not doing well. So yeah. Anyway, that is all we've got time for part one. Coming out in part two, Rich has got a bit on predictions. We then have a special topic around referees, and I will be hopefully giving Rich the teaser answer, because hopefully he won't get it right.
I'm pretty sure I won't.
We'll be back in part two.
Hello and welcome back to part two of View from the Sideline podcast. We're going to just start part two with a quick update on our predictions challenge. So at the weekend we had the FA Cup games. Our special guest predictor this week was Lynn, who won the round. So congratulations to Lynn, a very respectable score of 25, which puts her joint second in the table. There's 3 other contestants that have had a score of 25. Jamie is still with 30. Chris, you and I shared the spot in second with 20 points apiece. So a very high scoring round, all in all. I regret going for the Doncaster and Swansea game, both to finish in draws.
You had a good start as well, you had the Brighton derby.
I did. And we've got Yeovil coming up this week in the predictions. I seem to have a bit of a hold over Yeovil. Whenever we've got them in the predictions, I normally get the score spot on. Yeovil, if you're listening, I can save you some time. You do not need to travel to the game because I've gone for a 2-0 win for Cambridge. If that result comes in, and this is, but if this comes in, that will just be freakily good. That I think the new investors at Yeovil might want to give me a call. So yeah, we'll see. So I'm just ahead of you, Chris, by 0.2 of a point in the predictions table.
Close.
So it's very close. Very close indeed. Yeah, so obviously we'll keep that going till the end of the year, and there is a trophy and a prize for the winner. So if you want to get involved, just get in touch, and you can join in the fun. So our special topic this week, it's a big topic, but I don't think we'd be here all night, Chris, to be honest, wouldn't we? So our topic this week is around referees. So I guess there's a couple of points that we want to cover. I mean, I get that the main one being is that it's always a topical point in football. You can't really go through any round of matches without there being some sort of controversial decision.
Whenever your team loses, the first person you blame is the referee.
Yeah, I did notice that in your Chelsea review earlier. Yeah, I did notice that. But I think even with the introduction of VAR, they're not. No, they're not. They're blameless. There's still an interpretation, I guess, with VAR. I mean, I think the main points we might want to cover is the pressure they're under. I don't think we can ever underestimate the pressure that the officials are under these days. With VAR coming in next year into the Premier League, I think that when it was first announced, there was a lot of people that thought it may cure all problems. But I think that the competitions in which VAR has been used.
I think we've seen that.
Yeah, I think the Real Madrid Ajax game in the Champions League is probably a prime example. And then there's also the question around whether we believe that they should almost own up for their mistakes. Are they too protected? So the fact that they don't have to give interviews and any sort of post-match reaction like managers do, there's no sort of media commitment, if you like, referees. Is that a good or a bad thing? So far away, Chris. You can use the Chelsea game as a reference.
Yeah. Well, start first off with the pressure that referees are under. It is difficult for a full 90 minutes to concentrate on every single player on the pitch, and it is near on impossible that you're going to see everything with your eyes. But that said, I will say that I think sometimes we see some things on TV that everyone is kind of thinking in their head, well, how has the referee not seen that? And I think a prime example would be the handballs in the Doncaster Crystal Palace game. For me, it was clear to see. I know we're watching it from a TV, but even when you see the position of the referee, it comes into question why is he not given that decision? I know they have to go by the rule of they have to be 100% certain to give anything, which is understandable. But
but just on that, honestly, do you think that any ref is ever 100% certain when they give a decision?
No.
There's no way they can be 100% certain.
I feel sometimes if they feel that they've missed something in the game, that then when another tackle or something is made, they feel obliged sometimes to actually give the foul, give the penalty, give the yellow card. I think that's kind of the basis that they sometimes work on. So I understand, the pressures that they are under. I've in a previous podcast I did mention that it was the one where Greg was on actually co-hosting. We did a bit on grassroots where I said that I refereed a game, and it was probably one of the hardest things I think I've ever done. So you literally are a people pleaser when you're on the pitch. You are trying to please every single person within that stadium. If you kind of get what I mean, so you kind of having to.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Yeah,
I agree. I do agree with that, but I think that there needs to be an element of sort of realism, and I'm sure referees are like this. I don't think they're ever under the impression that they are going to please everyone as much as they may want to do that. I mean, it's the whole thing about the home team. People used to say, especially with United and with Ferguson, that United at home would always get all the decisions, and I don't necessarily think it was they got all the decisions. Maybe they were just the team that were attacking more, therefore got more free kicks, got more chances to score, etc., things like that. But I think that I don't think a ref can ever be 100% convinced or 100% certain. They've got a split second to make that judgment.
Yeah.
And I think they've got to referee the game to the best of their ability. And I think that as a football fan, you've almost got to say that if your team aren't playing the game to the best of their ability and they're below par, then would you blame your team for that? You
Yeah.
probably wouldn't, yet you will blame a referee for getting a decision wrong.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would love to. And I'm not a particular fan of referees. I mean, I like to see Mike Dean give the odd dance move every now and again when he gives the penalty.
It's a bit silly though, isn't
But
it?
but honestly, I would challenge any football fan to referee. And I know that that's what these guys do. These guys are professional referees. That's what they do for a living.
Yeah.
But even you and I, we can do this podcast and give our views, and we know this about football, we know that about football. But I would challenge any football fan to go out and referee a game of football, whether it's on a Sunday morning, a Saturday afternoon, whether it's professional, semi-professional, and I don't think it would be as easy as you think it would be when you've got. We're all armchair fans and we sit there and we see it from all these different angles. And I think that the pressure that's on referees is so high, but I think that is because there is an equal amount of pressure on professional footballers, on professional club managers, to stay in the division for the financial rewards and all sorts of things like that. And sometimes I just think that referees they're the easy blame. They're the easy person to blame. They're the easiest thing to point a finger
at. It's the
at.
first person you normally point the finger at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just moving slightly forward to the VAR situation. Are you worried at all that they're going to be using VAR? You know, they're not going to make those decisions anymore. They're just going to hope. They're just going to hope that VAR picks up these decisions, and they're not. You know, they're going to be a bit more. Well, you know,
yeah,
VAR said it. So do I continue or?
I'm one of those people that I quite enjoy the drama of a Saturday evening or sort of Sunday morning, like reading the paper or listening to the podcast or something like that. And there's a bit of a debate about a decision because I think that's what makes football what it is.
Do you think that's all going to go away now?
No, I don't think it will.
Or do you think the blame will shift more over to VAR than what it will to the referee?
Well, I heard someone in the week say like VAR is pretty much like electricity, that whether you like it or not, it's here and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's the nuts and bolts of it. I think there was a perception that, especially during the World Cup, because I think that VAR was really successful during the World Cup.
Yeah.
I think that now it's been embedded a bit more in football that you and I, for example, will watch. I think there's some flaws that are being found out. As I mentioned earlier, I think the disallowed goal for Ajax against Real Madrid.
Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, there was talk about that the players didn't even know what was going on, and Courtois thought that the goal had been disallowed for a reason that was nothing to do with why the goal was disallowed. So even the players don't know what's going on, let alone the fans. And there has to be a clear definition, like that goal, for example. So I believe there was two elements. The first one was offside or onside, and then the second one was Tadic interfering with play, I think, with obstructing Courtois.
Yeah,
but
that was the reason.
There's
no. They said it was the reason.
Yeah, but I mean the first bit. So there's no doubt about offside. You're either offside or you're not offside. Exactly. Whether you're offside by the length of your toe or whether you're offside by 10 yards, you're still offside. And then the interfering with play, that is clearly down to the referee's interpretation. So all VAR is doing in that instance is saying you might want to have a look at this. You might want to review this. But ultimately, it's still the referee who is disallowing that goal for those reasons. So the video doesn't tell you 100% that he's interfering with play, because there's been there's certainly two camps on that particular decision, where a lot of people are saying he wasn't interfering with play and a lot of people are saying he was. So VAR hasn't made that decision any clearer at all, really. If anything, it's added to confusion. And I think that from a Premier League perspective, things like that are going to happen. Things like that still will happen. It will take a lot of the if and but decisions out of it. Maybe I kind of look at it like goal line technology. That was a goal or not a goal. So that was a good introduction. There's still some grey bits in VAR for me.
So obviously moving on to the referees and are they protected? I feel that referees should do interviews after the game. I just think that it would put to bed all the after talk of a game of why did the referee make that decision. At least if they come out and say why they made it. I'm not saying that they should apologise for giving a decision which shouldn't be a decision, because obviously in their eyes they've given it because they feel that it was a clear foul or clear card. But I think that they should just come out and say, they don't have to, pick on individuals or anything, but they just have to say why they gave the decision. Who did they seek guidance from the linesman, the fourth official? Did they feel that they had control of the game? It's just things like that, really. I don't know, but
I think
it won't happen. It will never happen.
No, I don't think it will. I think it would make them. I think it would make the football in public have a bit more sympathy with them. I mean, I don't know the reason why they don't come out and do it, but do you think it's any different to a player being interviewed who's made a howler and cost their team the game, or
because that player might not want to talk to the press, but I think that they have an obligation to do it now.
But I don't think the player does. But so do you think there's any difference with a player coming out or a manager coming out? So say, for example, the players made a howler, the goalie's made a howler. Because of that mistake, their team's lost the game. So is there any difference in that goalie coming out or the manager coming out and criticising the goalie than the ref coming out and saying that they made a mistake? No, I don't see that there's much difference.
No.
So I don't know why.
I just think with referees, they would have to be more careful with what they say. Even managers are so scrutinised in these conferences now that if they say the wrong thing, they end up getting a fine. So
yeah, but all the referee would have to say is, "Yeah, I made a mistake." From where I saw it, I thought it was a foul. I thought it was a handball, but after having the opportunity to look back on it, I can see I made a mistake. That's not that bad.
They
surely
speak to the managers and the captain after the game. I don't know, just to let the manager and the player have speak to the referee after the game and ask why did they make that decision, instead of because half of them try and do it on the pitch while the game's still playing, and the referees aren't too keen on that these days.
I just throw this at you. Yeah. Do you think that the reason referees don't come out and talk about their own performance is because it would devalue the game? Because if you had a referee openly confirming they'd made a mistake, the next time they go and ref a match, does that then put even more pressure on? Because you're feeling that you've got a subpar official. As long as you're not actually admitting it yourself, it's almost as if you can't be proved that you're wrong.
Because I know the referees are sanctioned by their own sort of referee thing, aren't they? That if the referee has
they're all
game,
assessed. I think there's a referee's assessor at every game, as far as I'm aware. So it's not as if they're getting away scot-free. I mean, I don't necessarily think that. I mean, supporters of teams in lower leagues, that when an official has a bad game in the Premier League or the Champions League, and then they get that official in a League Two game, like at Yeovil, for example, the week after, there's almost a feeling from those fans that we're getting a bad ref. We're almost getting like a rejected referee.
He's made all these wrong. Yeah.
But I just think that I honestly think that refereeing and the mistakes that are made and the fact that they're human is what makes football what it is.
Yeah.
If everybody was a robot and we analysed every decision to the so much that we knew 100% that every decision in a match was right, we'd have nothing to talk about.
We wouldn't have this podcast, Rich.
We wouldn't. We wouldn't.
No. It's.
But I'm not.
Yeah.
I feel for referees,
and
I think that they are just as much a part of the game that we all know and love.
Yeah.
As anybody else, and I think that I'm not always a believer in that it evens itself out over the year. If a decision went against Spurs and we got relegated, I wouldn't be happy. I think from your Chelsea comment earlier, just face it, you're not good enough. You can't blame the ref for things like that.
Well, that's it. We've had enough of referees now.
Yeah, that's where I stand. Give them a break. Give them a bit of a break.
Right, teaser, Rich.
Yes.
Go on then. Who did Ashley Cole last score his goal against in
2012.
2012.
September. I've narrowed it down purely by guesswork.
Go on then, guess boy.
To Stoke City or Aston Villa, both of which I am pretty sure are wrong. But I'm going to go with my first four and say Aston Villa.
So, you said Stoke and Villa. It is one of them. You were.
Oh, you're joking. And I'll tell you why.
Rich,
I got the wrong
it was
one.
Stoke. I've seen Chelsea play Villa that season, and they beat them 8-0. So, yeah, he scored in a 1-0 win on Saturday, the 22nd of September.
I do not believe that.
I
do not believe that, because that was an absolute guess.
He did it on an educated Saturday in Stoke.
Well, never mind.
Okay, well, that is all we've got time for this week. Anything to add, Rich?
No, just that we've put the this week's predictions we've got just put online before recording this episode. So by the time you listen to this, they will be available on our social media platforms, so you can take a look at those. And no, that's it really. Speak to you next week.
So we will speak to you next week.